The day that we found the historical accounts of this invasion in 1274 of the Mongolians invading Tsushima Island, we knew we had found our game. Well, my name is Brian Fleming. I'm one of the founders and the producer here at Sucker Punch. We just released Ghost of Tsushima, and I'm super excited to talk with our friends down at PlayStation LATAM about it. Imagine you got to play in a sprawling open world adventure, and you got to play as a samurai in feudal Japan. We found a little corner of history where the samurai were defending an island called Tsushima Island from a Mongolian invasion, and they were overrun. And our story is the one samurai having to sort of come to terms with the fact that he's gonna have to change himself, he's gonna have to transform himself, the way he fights, what he values, in order to save his home from all these invaders. Well, we just finished our work on the infamous series, and we knew two things at that point. We felt like we really wanted to push ourselves to make a game at a much grander scale. We wanted to do a game that was based on melee combat, that was the center. And the creative directors, Nate and Jason, and myself, and the other founder, Chris, all had a belief that we could make a spectacular game about a samurai warrior if we could find the right story to tell in the right moment in time. And the day that we found the historical accounts of this invasion in 1274 of the Mongolians invading Tsushima Island, we knew we had found our game. I remember it like it happened last week. It was just very clear this was the game we wanted to make. We really want players to sort of follow their own instincts towards adventure. It is a game where the more that you allow yourself to be distracted and wander off the path, I think the more enjoyment you'll have. The katana is so important, we think. Fantasy fulfillment of being a samurai, that we couldn't imagine making this game without the beautiful, wondrous, dangerous weapon that is the katana. But it's part of Jin's story, right? I mean, the katana that he inherits from his father early in the game, you'll experience when he acquires it. You know, this is part of his legacy, and so in a very real way, the Sakai Storm, which is the name of the katana, is an important part of Jin's story itself. And certainly the most important inspiration is Tsushima itself, the island itself, and Japanese history and culture itself. The team made, multiple visits out there. The feeling, how we visited in the fall to make sure that we understood how the leaves would look in this season and all of those details. Jason and the art team, I think, did a really wonderful job also of assimilate more minimalist aesthetic. This reflects how minimal things tended to be, and still to this day tend to be, in the aesthetics of Japan. And even the textures on the trees or the leaves are simple enough that you don't have a lot of noise, because you're really trying to communicate this kind of simplistic, clear vision of the world and really the feeling of Japan. And I think that's such an important part of the emotional experience of playing the game. Well, I think, it starts with the wind, right? And the wind is this guide for Jin on this story. And there's a bunch of reasons to be excited about the wind. I think emotionally, it's really exciting for the same reason as the animals that you mention are, which is that somehow the island herself, or nature herself, is pulling you forward, is showing you paths that may be beneficial. All of those things come together to deliver the emotional experience that we're aiming at. Well, I think going into it with a frame of mind that you're going to be on the lookout for stuff is exactly the way to play the game, because whether it's, smoke from a fire, or a group of fireflies, or an unusual tree, or an animal trying to, sort of moving in the distance. All of those are the kinds of cues that will attract you into new stories and new adventures and new experiences, and that's really the hope that we have for players, is that you're sort of along some journey, and 4 or 5 things happen that take you off that path and just make your experience really dimensional. Well, I think I identify with Jin because the story is written, in such a way that the player identifies. The parallel or related question to that is, which character am I the most passionate about? And I think the role of Lord Shimura, this is Jin's uncle, who at times is in sort of opposition, I think it's such a fantastic performance. I really find him a gripping character, and he's one of my absolute favorites. Well, one of the things about making games is that we don't just see the stuff early, we see it dozens or hundreds of times. And so the scenes that really stick with you are the ones that, the 20th time that you play through a sequence, you still get a little bit of that spine-tingling feeling. And for me, I think the moment that Jin is released into the open world and begins to ride his horse for the first time, beautiful music and carefully crafted environment to give you this sort of sense of openness and freedom. If we did our job right, we'll be special. When we started the work, we had a bunch of important decisions to make. Were we going to record it principally in English or Japanese? Were we gonna, typically the Japanese audio isn't provided on builds for Latin America. Obviously include it because it felt like it honored the source material. And so from the beginning, we believed that an important way to experience the game would be with the Japanese VO and English or Latin American or Russian subtitles.
PlayStation